So it turns out there's a big bad that makes Koschei look like the bogey. They're called the Asteri, and I'm going to break it down for you. Some important context here. We are currently, not so patiently, waiting for the release of ACOTAR Book Six. So, I have read all of Throne of Glass. I've read the 3 books of Crescent City that we have so far. I've read all of ACOTAR, and I watched the interview on the Color Daddy podcast. And it occurs to me, most of the audience isn't going to do all of that. And while I trust Sarah to actually include the relevant information, contrary to what they did on Stranger Things, I'm making these videos just in case. For everyone who doesn't want to do the extra reading, I get it. And honestly, my husband doesn't want to either. So we're actually working on something where I'm explaining the Crescent City series to him, and he stands in for you as the audience, asking all the questions. So they are called the Asteri. However, in Prythian, they're known as the Daglan. And I say they're known, really, Amren is the only one who seems to have heard of them. Or at the very least, she had to mention the name before Rhys remembered it. So 15,000 years ago, from the time of ACOTAR Book 5, a rift opened called the Northern Rift. We don't know why, we don't know how, we don't know if it was done on purpose, we don't know anything about it. We just know that this happened in Throne of Glass, in Prythian, and in Crescent City, Midgard. The world in Throne of Glass is called Irilia, but nothing is confirmed over there except that they also had a rift open. So we're going to be focusing on Midgard because that's where they're active. Or were. Bryce kind of took care of that in Crescent City. But they do still exist in other worlds outside of Crescent City. So, 15,000 years ago, this rift opens. And entities use it to explore new worlds, and they come and go, and then the rift closes, and some of them are stuck. Like Amren is stuck. In Throne of Glass, their class of gods has been stuck. Like, they're not actually gods, they're just entities that got stuck because of that rift. We know that the Asteri have found a world called Hell, with one L, and they were able to successfully resist the Asteri. Specifically, one of their princes, Apollion, literally ate one of them, Sirius, and is now known as the Star-Eater. We also know that the Asteri are super sentimental because they leave Sirius's throne open as a way to honor their fallen brother. Which also brings me to who they are. With a name like Sirius, they are actual stars. They are the entities, the consciousness of a star. So we've got Sirius, we've got Polaris, so on and so forth, right? They destroyed their home planet. I'm not exactly sure how. Either they consumed all of the resources or they did an apocalypse or something. But either way, they had to expand to new worlds to, survive. In that time, they found Hell and they found Prythian. The problem with the Asteri is that they consume magic, but they can't generate it. They don't have any inherent magic of their own. So they are literally parasites that have to suck it off of magical creatures. Traditionally, they would do this in the form of a tithe. Once a year, magical creatures would have to present a little droplet of their power to the Asteri, or whatever name they go by on whatever world they're on. And in exchange, they don't destroy those people. Prythian was able to push them out, and they fled to Midgard. Which again, Midgard is the Crescent City series. When they got there, they decided to put a parasite in the water, which basically will consume magic if they don't make a ritual called the drop, which is a whole thing that I'll get into in a different video. But basically, if they don't participate in this ritual, somewhere, honestly, they get to pick what age they are. It's whatever age they want to be immortal starting from. If they don't participate in the ritual, they will age like a normal human and have no access to their magic. If they do participate in the ritual, they will gain all of their magic, but the Asteri kind of encase some of it in a battery sort of thing. Anyway, so this is how the Asteri get the magic that they feed on. They establish the Crystal City, and in it they've got this whole library and archive of the planets that they've been to, the successes and the failures that they've had with those planets, what they want, what their plans are. Everything is conveniently in this little vault in the Crystal City. And then comes Bryce. Bryce Quinlan is essentially the fated chosen one of the Crescent City series. So, not only does she get access to this archive and figure out all of this, she also goes to Prythian and discovers more of the history that honestly I've already covered. While in Prythian, she steals Truth Teller from Asriel and then separately borrows the mask from Nesta. I make that sound easy. That's a whole different topic. So, with the mask, she is able to basically reanimate the wings of fallen angels, which it's a whole story, but she commands them as an army and they're able to successfully resist the Asteri. However, the main reason for this resistance is because Bryce takes Gwydion, aka the Star Sword in Crescent City, and Truth Teller, uses them together and makes a portal to nowhere. She traps the Asteri in there. She kills one of them. One of them, we don't know what happened, actually. Like, it's described that they died, but we don't know that. So there were originally 7 Asteri in charge of Midgard. One was eaten by Apollion. Bryce genuinely killed one. One, we don't know what happened. It's described like they died, but we don't actually know that. And the remaining 4 were taken care of by Bryce. She was able to wield the Star Sword, aka Gwydion, and Truth Teller, and together the blades were able to summon a portal to nowhere. Like, literally nowhere, a black hole. She traps the Asteri in there, and Midgard's problem is solved. Of course, she returns the mask and Truth Teller to Nesta, also gives them the Star Sword, Gwydion. Anyway, so the Asteri are no longer on Midgard. They're not on Hell. They're not on Prythian. But we know they still exist elsewhere. And we know, because of everything Bryce found, that they actually do have their eyes set on going back and taking Prythian. So we know they're going to come back in as the ultimate big bad. We also know that at least one Asteri was left behind in Prythian when they fled, because Bryce also killed one in the prison, like the Night Court prison. But otherwise, they still exist in the universe. We just don't know where yet. So that's the Asteri in a nutshell. Kind of. It's very convoluted and confusing. But let me know what you think about the Asteri in the comments and what you expect to see next.